Welcome to Visualize, the podcast where collaboration fuels change. I'm your host, Chris Baker, and each week we'll explore incredible connections between nonprofits, businesses, and the community. This is a space where we highlight inspiring partnerships, uncover strategies for creating meaningful impact, and share stories that show how working together can make all the difference. Whether you're a nonprofit leader, a business owner, or someone just passionate about building connections, this podcast is for you. With all of this information, what are some of the current steps that we can implement right now as a nonprofit, whatever stage they're at?
Yeah. And then there are several different things. There are a couple of great resources that I always turn to for this kind of information, just figuring out what's our best next step. One of them is the National Council on Nonprofits. And they have recently, they've got all kinds of great information on their website. But one thing that they put out was just a quick step-by-step tool of what some things are that we can do now. So we start by, taking an inventory of whatever federal funding that your organization receives. Now, if you don't receive any, cool, you don't have to worry about that step.
Yeah.
If you, were maybe getting ready to pursue some and you're just going to pull back on that, okay, you've done your assessment. But for those organizations that do, be sure that you have a really good understanding of what you are getting in, what has come in so far, what you're owed, and what's going on with that particular funding line. That's a sort of a first step, really just assess that. Many organizations have already started doing that, but if you haven't, or, if you did it real quick and you haven't looked again, that's an important first step, is to really look and understand, what is this going to do right now as far as your funding coming in? And then you want to look into how is this particular stream of funding being impacted? Because it's really easy to get overwhelmed by, they're going to cut the whole Department of Education, or they're going to, the Department of Justice, all funding has stopped. You've got to tune into what's happening with that funding stream right now. Now, as of this particular day we're filming, funding coming out of the Department of Justice might be a little questionable right now. There's some steps have happened, but other different funding streams may not be impacted yet, or they may be frozen. So making sure that you know what your funding stream is for that government grant and what's going on in that lane is another sort of early step that you can take, and then just sort of staying tuned into those executive orders and the processes, again, that impact that particular funding stream. We can get really, as I said, overwhelmed in all of that's going on. So if you tune into those particular funding areas, that can be really helpful, and an efficient use of some of the time. Then taking a look at, reviewing your mission statement, your 990, your public profile, your candid profile, if you've got a candid seal of transparency. Taking a look at the information that's on some of those public sites is going to be helpful. And it may mean doing some, assessment or an audit of the language that you're using, right? Given some of the ruling that has come out, we do have to be careful with some of the language that we're using. So go through and see what language is being used in your public profiles, and then, make some edits if you need to. And then another piece of that is making sure that you're keeping your board, your staff, and the rest of your constituencies tuned into what's happening. You don't want somebody to go to your website and see that things have changed, but not understand why.
Correct.
Or not understand what that means. Because sometimes many organizations are just shifting the language, not necessarily the work. So it's understanding and making sure that all the people that are tuned into you understand what this means and what you're doing. Right. So it's tuning into some of that.
And sometimes it's doubling down on what was written there, even if it doesn't align with the government.
Oh, for sure.
And so I actually had one other conversation with an organization that she was like, no, I am not removing any of this. Okay. This is the basis of what we do as a nonprofit.
Yeah.
And because she literally, emphasized it on all of these public places, she has a national sports team reached out to her.
Perfect.
Because of that.
Yeah.
And they're looking, I want to sponsor you. So just because the government is making some changes, there's a lot of other collaboration and partnerships
for sure
that are available.
Yeah.
So
And that's a critical piece. I agree. We just don't want anybody caught.
No,
right? So you want to do that. Yeah, you want to do that analysis to know what's out there, and then you determine: are we making changes? Are we not making changes?
Right.
And then look around the sector. Look around at who else is doing work in the space. This is to our thought of collaboration, because again, now more than ever, that collaborative story may be even more impactful than the individual story. And I'll use a simple example of, say, a food pantry, right? A food pantry may be able to say, we've given this many pounds of food to this many individuals in the last 6 months, and that they certain percentage increase from this time last year. Okay, all powerful pieces of the story. But what if we looked across all of the different food pantries or food service programs in a specific zip code or in a specific region and said, not only are we seeing this individually, but collectively, we're giving out this many tons of food, and it is this percentage increase from what's happened over the last year.
Right.
That collaborative story and that collaborative work can get the attention of large entities, large funders, major donors. People can get really excited about that when they see that bigger impact that many of us just, we just are doing our piece. But again, now more than ever, the importance of that bigger story could be really valuable.
It can be life changing.
For sure.
I actually can think of one specific partnership that actually kind of did that, and they expanded into the whole city. The city got involved.
Yeah.
Because they saw the impact and the benefit they were giving to their constituents on a food pantry, and then another company or another organization coming in and delivering it. And so pulling in those volunteers to pull in more volunteers, it was a win. Yeah. Like it actually it kind of like made the city thrive. Yeah. And so, yes, you're right. That collaboration partnership can be huge and a better story.
Yeah, it absolutely is. And I will tell you, this isn't news to anybody that's been in this space for a while, but as funders, we love that.
Oh, yeah.
We love the idea of being able to fund a collective, because that's really more likely to make bigger change, right? And that's not to discredit anybody's individual program, but when you put some of those programs together, that's even more powerful. And, if you are trying to get the attention of certain funders, that may be a good way to do it. So that collaboration piece, really a critical piece.
It's one of the reasons why we started this podcast, because it was like we saw the value behind two nonprofits collaborating together. What happens when 3, 4? Right. How much more of an impact can be made? And now even hearing from you, it's going to grab the attention of more funding. Yeah. Win-win.
Exactly. Exactly.
So this is an opportunity for them to, okay, I'm struggling here. All right, we're both struggling. Let's do this together and figure it out together. And hopefully maybe that'll recoup all of the funding that you missed. Yeah. Or were, not sure was going to come in. Now you have it. So that's awesome.
It can be. The other trusted source I will turn to is the fundraising schools out of the Indiana University Lilly Family School of Philanthropy. They do a ton of research and training, and they just recently put out sort of tips for sort of first steps if and when funding is either unexpectedly or abruptly cut. Because, for those of us that get a lot of grants, we know, you typically know when that's going to end, and that creates part of a challenge. But when it, ends in the middle, or, you were counting on those funds and now they're not going to come, there's some specific things that you also need to think about and be sure to do. And the first is to keep your board informed, right? This is not a secret that you want to hold, until you could figure out the answers. You want your leadership, the board leadership, to know this right up front. So call in your board, engage with whatever committees that you may have in place. It might be your governance committee that wants to look at, what are we going to do structurally to make some changes if we need to, or to be sure we're all standing the same. It might be, there might be that you pull together a specific task force that is going to look at how are we going to get through the next 6 months with these funding challenges, so get the board involved. These are well-connected leaders throughout the community. These are the folks that can help and assist with that process. So That's one of the first things that they do, and then they share to go ahead and seek advice and assistance. You might need some legal advice here.
Yeah.
You might want to get some input from your fiscal professionals that are, your auditor or your CPA to understand what sort of impact, what your cash flow strategies are and those kinds of things. So, get the board involved, get the assistance that you need, and then really start thinking about this from a safety lens. And I thought this was an interesting take to bring to this current time. Really thinking about building a secure environment for your staff, for your recipients, for your board, for your volunteers. And that can mean a lot of different things. It may mean a space where they can openly have conversations about what's going on, to understand and be on the same page about the messages we're sharing out, the stories that we're sharing, any decisions that we're making about language or anything else, where we're standing on things. It's that safe space to have those conversations. It may also mean some actual security things for your facility. They're, given a lot of the different things that are going on, but it's upfront thinking about the safety and security of the people who are engaging with a nonprofit, because that builds trust, that builds confidence, that builds some comfort, so that people will continue to come to you for services, will stay with the organization. So I thought that was an interesting take on something to do relatively quickly. But I totally appreciate even the security of your bank accounts. Just making sure, checking the security of your computer systems. With
all of it, yes.
With all of the there's just a million things coming at our nonprofit. So it's just a moment to pause and think about it from a safety and security space. Then even looking at your finances, do we need to update the budget? Are we going to need to make some changes in the budget? Do we need to, and in fact, I would encourage this significantly, do some future planning and some what if scenarios. So what if this funding completely gets cut? What does that mean? People don't want to think about it until it happens. But if you've planned out, done some scenario planning, you've got at least a framework that you can start with on, if we're going to lose this line of funding, or if we have to cut these 2 positions, or whatever that may be, hoping that we don't bring any of that to fruition, but at the same point, being prepared, right?
You have to be actively looking at all of the possibilities and all the situations.
Right. So that sort of future planning, future thought is another important piece to really think about. And even going through and saying, okay, we have, 15 programs that we do. What are the top 3 most mission critical, right? And that's not saying that you're going to need to cut anything else right now, but it is saying, let's assess what has to happen, what we'd like to have happen, and what's been a really cool thing that has been happening. But if we really did have to make a tough decision, we're prepared to make, right? So thinking about it from that, then we go, then we start thinking about really engage your donors.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. This is, again, don't keep it a secret, but the story is not, oh my goodness, we're losing our funding, right?
Yeah, you can't approach it that way, because then they're going to go, well, then I'm just going to fund someone else.
Right.
I'll take this money, move it.
So is everybody else. Why would we, ooh, that's scary. And again, we're not keeping it a secret, but your story is who you serve. Correct. And what impacts how they're being served. And so that's what you want to do. Engage the donors. Let them know. Let them know the impact of what, it's fine to say what's going to happen without these funds is that we're going to, not serve this many pounds of food, to go back to our earlier example, or whatever it is, and let them know how they can help, right? And then the other thing, and I loved this sort of aspect, is make sure that your fundraising approach, you're giving, particularly if you're doing this online, if your giving strategy, your giving tools are easy and efficient.
Yes.
Because I can promise you, if it takes more than 7 or 8 steps for someone to go into your nonprofit website and make a gift, people are going to not do it.
It's too much.
Or they're going to circle back to it later. If it's not mobile friendly, people are not going to do it. So those are some other things that you can look at right now to get the help that you need to make sure you are positioned to navigate through this particular curve, whatever that's going to look like for us.
Yeah, no, you got to find ways that are going to make it easy for them to donate, get the money to you. Otherwise, yeah, if you take too long,
Yeah.
you're right.
Yeah.
You're going to circle back. And if you need that funds this month and they circle back 6 months from now, that might not be exactly what you were hoping for. So yeah, you got to keep them updated.
And while these are all good tips for current environment, they're also good tips to just look at periodically anyway. Because we do respond when we're in, one of these sort of dips, we'll just call it right now, this sort of particular environment. But keeping your board involved is something you should always be doing.
Yes.
But now is a time to circle back to that, right? And in addition to letting them know the challenges, also don't forget stewardship. One thing that we hear more and more from donors is that they're not being thanked, or they're not feeling thanked. And that's different sometimes. We think we've thanked them.
Right.
When, they've made the gift and we send them the receipt and the CEO put "thank you" on the receipt. That's a great thing to do, but that isn't necessarily a way the donor feels thanked or feels gratitude.
Correct.
Right? So now more than ever, show those donors your gratitude. Let them know how important they are to you. Show them the impact that they're making. Because if you do have to then reach out for an emergency gift, or you're going to run a different campaign, you've got the people ready. They're not only hearing from you when you are in this panic, right? That they have heard from you consistently. So those are some things you can kind of do immediately.
Well, and what's easy about that one specifically is pick up your phone, put it to selfie mode,
right?
Hit record, and just be very authentic, very truthful, and just say, you know what, I really want to just reach out and thank you for everything you've done over the last couple months, the last year, and this is from all of us. And maybe just showcase like a small group, however the bigger the team is.
Yeah,
that small thank you video could be tripled in your donations for the next year.
Absolutely.
You have no idea how that impact of making somebody feel like that.
Yeah.
Oh, wow, they took the time. Didn't take them long, but they took the time to really see me, thank me, and be there.
Yeah.
So
and be
huge.
a part of the success. That's what the donors want to feel, right? Very few donors give transactionally. No. That may be the process. They send in their monthly gift. It comes, you don't even ever talk to them because it's just automatic. But that isn't why they're giving.
No, it's not.
Right.
Yeah.
They need to feel that gratitude. And I have been in a sector for, well over 30 years. And that has always been a challenge. But it has become more of a challenge. The busier that we get, the more distressed that we get in the nonprofit profession, that we feel like we'll do that in a minute. We got to put this fire out first. We got to do this thing. We got to fix these 4 things, whatever it is. But we sort of push that off to the last thing that we need to do. And it's the easiest, to your point, it's one of the easiest and one of the most impactful. So circle back to your stewardship, engage your board, have everybody take out their phone and say, here's the reason I love this organization. They can do that in a minute and a half. You've got, 30 videos of examples that you can use. Have the kids do it if they're, if they're in your program. Have the artists do it. Whoever needs to be doing it. Those are fun things for people to be able to do that really, and if somebody just says, what can I do to help?
There you go.
Yeah. Give them a list of people to call.
Yeah.
Those are things we can do right now that can really start to have an impact. That may not, fix the shortfall that you may be facing today, but it's going to be a much shorter turnaround in impact than some of the longer term strategies.
It's kind of interesting that, we're talking about that specifically because there's actually been organizations that we've worked with and there was zero thank you.
Yeah.
And there was zero follow-up. There was zero anything. And I was like, did we do a good job? Did we not do a good job? There was a lot of other questions going through our head of like, where are we? Or one of the biggest things for me personally is like, okay, we're helping you and you agreed to, introduce me to this one other person that could help us in the future, but then they don't follow through. And those small little things, it's something that we do as a for-profit business.
Sure.
We'll remember it's like, well, I still love this organization, but I'm not feeling as loved and that the gratitude's not really there.
Sure.
And it's kind of sad because, like you said, it doesn't take long.
No.
It could be something as just a quick text message.
Yeah.
And you can talk to your phone while driving.
Yeah.
So it's not like
Correct.
So it's not like, there's a lot. There's a lot of ways to do it. Text message, a quick email. I think a video is way more impactful. They can post it on their social and tag them. There's so many different ways to just make somebody feel grateful and appreciated, that it should be one of the things that shouldn't be last on the list. It should be, all right, you know what? Take 5 minutes, go through as many as you can, and then jump back into what you need to work on.
Right.
But if every single person did 5 minutes a day, you'd get through all of them.
You would. And the other benefit to that is the mental health piece for providing gratitude. And when our teams and our staffs are feeling that immense burnout, that is the perfect time to say, wait, everybody pause, come in here, here's a pizza, or whatever, grab some ice cream, grab a coffee, whatever it is, pull everybody together and say, okay, we're going to just take a breather. And we're going to do a little bit of gratitude work. We're going to thank our donors. We're going to write some notes. We're going to drop it, whatever it is, to get that information out, because it's easy to get done. And it has that impact of our own mental health.
Yeah.
It really makes a difference there as well.
Well, and you brought up another good point. Make sure it's not just for the donors.
Oh, for sure.
For your staff.
Yeah.
How important is it to give them a mental break?
Yes.
Even for just a few minutes. And like you said, do some gratitude notes, do some quick videos, and just be there and support each other for 20 minutes, a half an hour, whatever it needs to be. And then, you know what? They're going to go back refreshed. They're going to be able to work faster and better, and everybody's going to have a better day.
Yeah.
So it's all worth it.
Yeah. Yeah. So those are some things that maybe, you do get a little overwhelmed with everything that's going on. So, just remember to circle back to some of these, these core pieces. Yeah.
I love it. That's very important. Is there any final tidbits that you would love to share with the community?
It is an anxious time. But to what we started with, when you go back through history, this is not the first, this is not the last. So, do the things that you can right now, and then do the things that you can long-term to continue to sustain the organizations. The missions that you have are important. They're valuable. They make Broward what it is today. And they make South Florida what it is today. So, we value the work that the nonprofits do. I know our for-profit partners do as well. Absolutely. So I guess, my tip is hang in there. Keep the good mission front and forward, that's the reason that you're doing the work that you're doing. And do what you can to position yourself to keep moving forward.
Wonderful. How do nonprofits get a hold of you at Community Foundation of Broward?
Yeah, we're easy to catch. It's the Nonprofit Center is actually built right into the Community Foundation of Broward. So if you go to cfbroward.org, you can find the Nonprofit Center. You'll find me. You'll find our team in the Community Impact team. You can reach out through the phone, through email. My email is an easy one. It's cbrown@cfbroward.org. So, and I love to hear from our nonprofits and all of our friends and supporters. So,
absolutely.
Easy to find.
We're going to go back to the legacy question, because I do want to always end our show with that question. So what is the legacy that you hope personally to leave for future generations?
If I can leave people just a little better informed and feeling a little better about themselves than they did before, I'll feel like I've done my job. That's sort of my mission.
So you're a teacher.
I am.
I love it. And that is what a teacher would say. I want to inform you, and I want you to feel...
I want you to feel good about it.
I want you to feel good about it. So, Cathy, thank you again for sharing all of your insights. This is all amazing information for all of our nonprofit friends and the community in general. So thank you so much. And if you need any resources or need any questions, reach out to Cathy Brown at the Community Foundation of Broward. That is cfbroward.org. Thank you so much, and have a wonderful day.
Thanks.
Thank you for joining me on this episode of Visualize. We hope that the inspiration and practical insights can help you foster stronger connections and meaningful change. Don't forget to subscribe, share the episode, and leave us a review. To learn more about Visuals by Momo and how we support collaboration and storytelling, visit visualsbymomo.com. A huge thank you to everyone out there listening. Until next time, remember, collaboration fuels change, and your connections can inspire the world.